Hey everybody, Aaron here, and welcome back to another Surprise Attack review. Today, we look at the show known as Kekkai Sensen, or Blood Blockade Battlefront. Now, what's funny is, I don't know if you guys watch the Otaku 18 podcast. If you don't, you should be watching. I'll leave a link to the description below for that. I actually talked about, with my other host of the podcast, that we were watching Kekkai Sensen together. Actually, we went to the first 5 episodes of it together. And one thing we all were saying about the show was that we were incredibly lost. Like, we loved certain things about the show, we hated certain things about the show, but we were all lost about that. And a lot of them didn't want to continue with the show. And being that I very rarely drop series, I tend to always finish things. I actually went and finished it against all odds. I don't know how I did it, but I did it. And I am now here to give you the review of it. And boy, it's going to be an interesting review because I'm still lost in about half the series. Now, the main thing of Blood Blockade Battlefront, or Kekkai Sensen, so I'm going to call it Kekkai Sensen because it's a little easier to roll off the tongue. But Kekkai Sensen actually takes place in essentially what used to be New York City, but now is called Hell Salem's Lot, when a portal to another world opened up. And essentially, what came forth was kind of creatures and ghosts and demons of all sorts, and actually ended up intermingling with our society. Now, what actually was happening too, though, it was actually destroying the whole city, but luckily, a certain group of people were actually able to make a barrier around the city to keep it somewhat safe. And for the most part, every part of New York City now is Hell Salem's Lot. Is actually okay to live and intermingle with all these creatures and stuff, and they actually assimilated almost perfectly with their society. They make their own little restaurants, they have their own ways of life and old ways of being. Now, what actually takes place though, and what the main story comes from, is a young man named Leonardo Watch. That name sounds terrible. I know. I agree 100%. Leonardo Watch actually has an ability called God's eyes, or the analysis eyes, where they actually could see things with this kind of weird retrospect where they can actually look at things and analyze them, and see beyond certain things. You can see through walls, you can see how things are made up. He ends up being kind of scouted to work for this group named Libra, who are also a bunch of kind of weird human slash creature hybrids that also are trying to keep the city safe from the kind of degenerates that are roaming the city. Of course, ghosts and random demons are not going to all want to go with us and be friends with us and all that. So it's a weird cast of characters, and Libra is made up of a whole slew of weird characters in itself. I think one thing I liked about the show, and it's one of the few things I liked about the show, was the cast of characters are all very unique and kind of funny. They have their quirks, their pros and cons to them, but they are all very different, which is really cool, and they all have very unique design choices, which I really like. Now, outside of that, what is really kind of off-putting about the show, though, is that from the gate, you will never fully understand what the hell's going on. I don't care who you are. I don't care how much you can analyze TV shows and you think that you know everything that's going on. I'm pretty sure even if you think you know what's going on, I'm pretty sure you're still partially wrong. There's a lot of stuff in Kekkai Sensitive for even those who pay attention to it, because I did really pay attention to this wholeheartedly, especially when I started picking up the series again. There's a lot of things that really are, I want to say, very left vague and kind of not really important to maybe the audience, and thus are kind of left at the wayside. You understand some parts of, for example, Leonardo's kind of background history and his family, and why he has these eyes in the first place. Via that his sister actually was caught up in an accident during the event that caused the change in New York. And honestly, what's funny is that he actually was able to make a sacrifice on her behalf. Of she actually gave him her eyes, and allowed him to get that power via the barriers powers and all that. It's very, very strange, and this is just one of the many things that you'll be like, well, I don't fully understand or fully grasp it. Other characters show up, and I'll tell you right now, this is a 12 episode series, and what was funny about it was the 12th episode actually took place 4 months after the completion of the first 11 episodes, and then 4 months later the final episode aired, which was like 46 minutes long. It's very, very confusing. Up to the point of the 11th episode, I really don't think there's actually a story here. What we are is just, we have a bunch of random episodes that really have no kind of meaning besides having these characters do random things and talk about random issues and dealing with random stuff that pops up in the city, and you really don't really get a grasp of anything happening overarching story wise, if that makes any sense. you really don't understand Leonardo's plight besides him, kind of being the only one really who has no powers besides his eyes. Outside of that, he has no combat experience, while all the other characters of Libra actually can fight, mano a mano with these giant creatures and stuff. And it's almost like a laugh when you see Leonardo get flung across the screen because he's like, engaging with an enemy that's twice his size, not because he wants to, but just because he's there at that moment. It's interesting to have a main character so weak, and I liked it about the show, but I just wish that this show would actually explain more that was actually going on. I was hoping the last two episodes, because I did hear about this online, that the last two episodes were more story driven than the rest of the series. And oddly enough, that is true. The last two episodes really are the actual story presented in the actual tale of these last two episodes. But even then, you're left to this like, I don't fully understand what's going on. Its characters are now finally showing up and making sense of what they've been doing. But in the end, I was left with like, that's it. Really, I just watched this series. I watched a 46-minute long episode for a conclusion that I didn't understand anything that went on besides the obvious stuff. Like, don't get me wrong, it's obvious. You'll understand what concepts are happening. You'll understand who's fighting who. You'll understand what's going on, sort of, but you'll never understand the actual synopsis of it. You'll never understand the main little details and the integral part of the integral. It's not a word. Integral. There we go. Integral parts of the show. You just won't understand that. And that's my biggest issue with Kekkai Sensen. It is a confusing show that is it has so much potential to be something great. It really had some cool characters. It had some really beautiful art. The music's really well done. One of the best parts of this is the music. Japanese dub is the only thing I watched in. I know there's an excellent English dub for it, but I only watched it in Japanese. I thought the Japanese dub was phenomenal. It had a really nice cast of characters. English dub, I looked up who did the voices of certain characters, and has a lot of talent behind that, so I'm presuming it's going to be good too if you watch it like that. But in the end, I can't recommend watching this because I just honestly, it doesn't make sense. It's one of those shows that you watch just maybe for comic relief up to the point that the last two episodes exist, and then you watch for like this hammered in story at the end that's not even hammered in straight. It's just kind of one of those. You ever hit a hammer incorrectly into you hit a nail with the hammer incorrectly, have it kind of twist and bend, and it's like, it still works what it does need to do, but it doesn't look straight. That is how Blood Blockade Battlefront ends. Kekkai Sensen is a odd show. That's why if I had to review it A through F, I have to give it a C minus. Honestly, again, the animation, the characters, the music is phenomenal. It's the saving grace of the show. But story-wise, it is all over the place. It makes no sense whatsoever. It is the weakest part of the show, and it's the integral part of the show. I keep saying integral. Integral part of the show. I apologize. I can't talk today. I'm not even gonna say that word again, just in case I mess it up again. But yeah, it's not a good show. It really is not, unfortunately. I think it has a lot of talent. It has the ability. I mean, it's made by Bones, and they did a really good job with it in terms of animation. But story-wise, it's just all over the place, and that's. Yeah, unfortunate. I mean, I really wish I would have liked this show. I gave it a chance, and I just felt it's not good in many ways. But I hope you guys enjoyed this review nonetheless. Please like, comment, subscribe. Helps me out a lot. And as always, until our paths cross again in the next review, have a good one, everyone. Bye-bye.